I have a mixed feeling about the new M2 MacBook Air. It's not the iPad style MacBook Air like the leakage showing on the internet 1 or 2 years ago. It's not using the same wide bezel and colorful chassis like people expected before. It is the best netbook, have a web surfing speed faster than the MacBook Pro, and the screen and the speaker make it not comparable with the more premium options. It's more like a traditional MacBook which is aimed for lower market. So I would like to talk about some of my personal experience that means to be as a compliment for the big review. First, I would like to say that I only recommend the base model. Yes, the slower SSD might seem concerning, and from MaxTech's review, we might got the illusion that opening 5 tabs is enough to make the computer feel slower, but based on my usage, you can see that I already have multiple YouTube tabs open and playing sound here. It doesn't slow down at all. That's actually feeling snappier compared to the MacBook Pro, which I will demonstrate later. The build quality of Apple's product is always amazing. You can see there the MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and the old iPad Pro here are all sharing a similar design language. The rumor is partially right about the MacBook Air using a square design just like the old iPad Pro. The MacBook Air have the exact same cutout, just like the MacBook Pro. And their corner is also exactly the same. One thing I don't see people mention on the review is that the MacBook Air's feedback doesn't feel the same as the one on the MacBook Pro because of the chassis design. Take a listen. Then the MacBook Pro. Now on a normal using distance. Then the MacBook Pro. The black light bleed on the new MacBook Air is kind of distracting, and the screen is just not as nice as the mini LED screen on the Pro. And yes, the reflectivity rate on both computers are identical. The keyboard, I guess they are all using the same structure, but because of the chassis, they still sounds and feels different. Take a listen. Now on the MacBook Pro. I feel that Apple could have made their speaker better if they choose to push the speaker out in the frame instead of hiding in the hinge. Let's take a listen. Now the MacBook Pro. And I have a 3rd gen iPad Pro take a listen. Personally, I don't like the speaker on the MacBook Air. They are all in 50% volume. I think Apple could have made it better, but they choose to make the chassis thinner. If they make the speaker grill here, the things might be much better, but who knows. And because of the hidden speaker grill design, listening to the speaker in different angle will affect the sound very much. That's something you don't see on the other laptop. Take a listen. Now compares to the speaker on the MacBook Pro. In my opinion, definitely a smaller change compared to the new MacBook Air. I won't recommend the dual-port Apple new 35-watt charger either. I will show in later video, but basically the 67-watt fast charger is not full speed for the MacBook Air's charging, so you might have just go with one of the multi-port PD charger available on Amazon. They have more port and charge faster. I'm now using the 135-watt charger on the MacBook Pro, and you can see the wattage on it is easily past the 67 mark. So even using a 67-watt charger isn't guaranteed you will get the full speed of charging, let alone the 35-watt dual charger. Just get a third-party one. Despite all those things I have mentioned before, I think the MacBook Air is still the fastest. It's still the fastest netbook you can get on the market, and it have a great value at $1,000 price point. Even compared to the last gen MacBook Pro, it's noticeable faster. You can see and feel that MacBook Air is faster in almost every time. It doesn't have the 120Hz screen, but because the XPS doesn't have that either, so I don't find it quite annoying, and therefore MacBook Pro base model is still worth recommending.